We'll,
this will go green. Oh, wait. Hi. I'm Brooke. We're late.
Yeah, we're late. Sorry. I'm Derek. We're the husband and wife team of Fastlifetv, which you all know so far.
He's the one that's trying to be a pro race car driver. Is a pro race car driver.
Yeah, thank you. And she is the filmmaker that chases us around. And we're 5 minutes late because we also work and raise a family, and we're at the geography show that I didn't know about, but it was amazing, and Ryan had an awesome little project.
Yeah, she did a report on Greenland. It was really great. I learned some new things.
Can we switch to this little view right there?
Yep. So how is everybody today? Hope we have some of you on live. I did not share it to Facebook because I didn't have time to do that. So at least maybe once you're talking about something, I'll just do that real quick.
Sure. Sounds good.
So we have the amazing, infamous, iconic, historic Indy 500 coming up next week. And I understand they're having some crazy weather.
You want to know what's cool? Sorry to interrupt you. Hey, Brian's on there. It's Fast Talk Friday. That's what we call this, right?
Yeah.
It's Fast Friday at Indy as well.
I know.
Yeah.
And I picked up a little bit of news, and I'm so crazily disorganized right now because we were running from one thing to the next, and I don't know where it went. Did you watch any of the news from what happened today?
Yeah.
Okay, so do you want to tell them what happened today at Fast Friday?
Yeah, sure. I mean, a lot of them probably watched it as well, but it's been a pretty awesome week at Indy so far. A lot of people are going pretty fast already. Mm-hmm. Unfortunately, there were no records broken today, but I kind of have a little bit of a mixed opinion of that anyhow, being a race car driver myself. But it is fun to watch, and it's just, you dangle carrots out there for race car drivers and then chase it. But this whole Fast Friday thing has gotten pretty crazy, but it ultimately got cut short from some crazy lightning storms and stuff like that happened in the Midwest. But, cars were already up into the 233 mile an hour range. I think Sebastian Bourdais was the fastest today. And
does that exceed the record for a practice day or a qualifying day?
That does, because I think
it was 226, right, for a while, and then
I think Buddy Lazier had a qualifying run at like 231, and I can't remember the year that was. And I would expect we'll probably see cars in the 230 range for qualifying over this weekend. But
looking at my notes here,
they'll always run faster on Fast Friday than they will in qualifying for them. And part of that is a little bit of a promotional thing that's happened with the series and the track, where they give them a little bit of extra horsepower on this Friday. Mm-hmm. I think in an attempt to go and break records. So
wow,
weather thwarted that today.
Yeah, I guess there was a weather warning. Take cover. I did look at the weather for next Sunday when the actual race is. Next week, for those of you that don't know, Derek and I are traveling to Indianapolis for the weekend, and Castrol, Derek's sponsor, will be kind of taking care of us for the race. So for the first time, Derek and I will be able to actually go with, what do we get to do? Like with a police escort to the track? Like we don't have to walk there and all the crowds?
Yeah, I think it'll be easier than the couple times that we kind of invented it on our own and whatnot. And Castrol is certainly becoming a really good supporter and partner of ours, both on the track and in our business. So it's cool that we got that invite. And then not only is it with them, but it's with the McLaren Honda side of the Andretti side of things. So it just couldn't be cooler. I grew up being a huge Andretti fan, both a Mario fan and then a Michael fan, and I've wanted to see Marco enjoy some of the success that his family's had as well. And I think kind of the title of today's show, though, too, was, can you be a racing driver and a fan?
I think it's absolutely requisite to be a fan if you want to be a race car driver, because I think, as in anything, to get good at it, you need to study it. I think you need to understand it and study what they do and how they do it and who does it best and why, and I think that's all really important. So for years, Derek and I have been fans And I guess I've become a fan just because I want to understand better what Derek's doing and what Derek loves. And then, of course, he has followed it ever since you were a kid, right? This was the race that you dreamed of doing, if there was one.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's where it all started. I mean, this is the single largest spectacle of any sporting event in the entire world. And as a kid, I grew up watching it, and those guys were my heroes, and that's what I wanted to do. And I think it's that bit me and got me hooked, just like racing does for so many people. I know you and I have both been kind of quizzing through fun facts and the story about
we'll share some with
the
you.
astronauts that had to hide their involvement with it. And I mean, I guess if you were to stereotype an astronaut, I don't know any, but or have had a chance to talk with many, but I assume they're a little bit of an adrenaline junkie type of personality, like me, and whether it's wakeboarding or auto racing or whatever, and they go to see something like the Indy 500 once, and they're hooked, and they're trying to find a way to do it, be a part of it, be any part of it at all. I mean, it's fun hearing those stories because it just rings so true.
So we've linked to all the things that we're going to touch upon today because we kind of can't tell the whole story in the amount of time that we have. So if you just go into the description area of our talk today, you can find those articles. And the one that I found was on 2 NASA astronauts that somehow became hooked on racing, and they became friends with a Chevy dealer, which I thought was an interesting tie-in to Derek being a Chevrolet dealer for his day job. And
he was a car owner and a driver and won the race in 1960. It was Jim Rathman.
Jim Rathman. And ultimately Jim Rathman, I think where it kind of started was he thought it was a good publicity thing to lease the 2 astronauts Corvettes for $1 a year. Did you read that in the article?
Yeah, it's a great program. Don't tell my team at work. No big ideas, guys. We're not doing any $1 leases.
Yeah, and then they were like sneaking into the track because NASA was frowning upon them doing anything as dangerous as driving in the Indy 500. And then my question to you, Derek, is at that point it sounds like that was back in the 60s?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think it was 63 that he went to the
You
first
could
race.
just enter any car into the Indy 500 with certain specs, right? Like it wasn't like you had these open wheel cars that all look the same and have to be like
that's
much
correct.
a copy of each other. So what was the car? You may not remember.
I don't remember the car either, but yeah, I mean that was the times where racing was being developed, and there would be different chassis and different motors and different ideas, and it's where so much of our technology in cars has come from is from racing, and that quest to go win, to make a car faster, to make it last longer, to make it more efficient. That's how our cars got to where they are today. Can we make this wider? Because I'm seeing some comments that I can't read all the way.
And then I should probably share this over onto my Facebook.
I see somebody already wants to lease one for $1.
Yeah. Not a bad deal. But then that leads me to, just from the wife's standpoint, the safety of that it's still considered a very fast-paced race that has its downsides as far as safety is concerned. So back then, or up until what date, there have been how many deaths running the Indy 500?
I'm not sure. A lot.
And we probably shouldn't talk about that. I just feel like that's like taboo to talk about. But
it's known that open wheel racing is the most dangerous form of racing, and it's also the type of racing that drew me in. It's where I started. I started in Skip Barber Formula Dodge open wheel. It was the first race car that I ever touched, and ultimately got myself in probably over my head at the time. I think I had done one Skip Barber race when Formula Renault and the 2-liter Renault came over from Europe to the U.S. and I negotiated a test, and it was amazing. I mean, I felt like I was driving an Indy car at that point in time, and that was kind of the path I kept wanting to go on. You remember back in those days we even raced against Marco Andretti in Renault. And
I remember it very well. He was 14 at PIR in Portland.
Having our little kids and me being a dad and married, I think it wasn't long after that you and I kind of made a deal that if we're going to keep racing, we need to maybe find a little bit safer way to go about it.
Mm-hmm.
And it was really reluctant. You know, it was Tom Smierzinski that came to me and wanted to do that Chevy Cobalt program, and it was like, I didn't know if I wanted to stop racing completely or try something different, because I was so like just laser beam focused on the open wheel stuff.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so 14, maybe 15 people we've lost in the chase to win the Indy 500 over the years. But let's kind of move on from that topic, and we're going to pray for safety for all the drivers for this year. I always do that. This is an amazing fact that you all should know. If all of the Indy hot dogs and bratwurst sold on race day were laid end to end, they would circle the oval more than 3 times. And I think it's a 2.5 miles.
7.5 miles of hot dogs.
7.5 miles.
Are you going to have one while we're there?
I don't know. I mean, maybe. Is it like an amazing hot dog?
I don't
remember. I'm not much of a hot dog person.
I don't think it's on my driver diet. I might have to get a bigger fire suit if I start enjoying those.
How about Jello shots? Are you gonna have any of those?
I don't think so, but just to let all of you know, the reference to that, you know, something like the Indy 500 is so cool because it has so much tradition behind it. And
paleo.
Yeah, paleo hot dogs. I think Jello might be.
I don't think so. It has sugar, I bet.
But just all the traditions, and I mean, I think you talk to anybody that lives within a 100-mile radius of Indianapolis, like the 500 is a huge part of their life. You know, this year we're being hosted by another friend who's also a driver, and they have the annual barbecue that everybody goes to. I mean, and that's just a way of life. They have this barbecue every Friday before the Indy 500.
Big names come. They're friends with a lot of the big names. Because this is a training
drivers
ground.
And team owners and stuff like that will be there.
This is a training place for a lot of the teams and drivers, right? Like, they tend to...
A lot of the teams are based there. I mean, it's like the world headquarters for racing.
Mm-hmm.
But back to the Jello shots and traditions. You know, the first year that Brooke and I got to go, we ended up with some pretty good seats. You know, we were kind of up high to where you could see most of the track, and you know, I think it's pretty hard to get seats because families own these seats for generations and generations, and the people sat next to us. Their annual tradition was they'd drag their cooler all the way up there, and lo and behold, they open it up and it's filled with Jello shots, and that was like what they did for race day. And we got a chance to go a few years again later, and the same people were there with the same cooler with the same Jello shots, and it's just.
They're not going to be there this year. I already got a message.
You did?
Yeah, and we're not going to be in those seats this year, sadly, and also very excitedly, I have to say. We're going to be with
let's go
the Andretti
see
team.
What it's like from the McLaren suite.
And we will have that Fastlife camera rolling for as much of this as we're allowed to. And then we're going to create some episodes with the behind-the-scenes look at what we get to experience, who we get to meet. If anybody's willing to do a short little quick interview, we're going to talk to fans. It's going to be really fun.
I have another Indy fun fact.
What?
Well, I just kind of remembered because I was talking about those seats, and we had to go up lots of stairs to get there, and they were really high.
Yeah.
And you don't really realize the grandeur of that place till you're in a spot like that, and it's like you can't even make out what cars are going down the back straight. It's so far away. You can see that maybe a red car is going by a blue car or whatever, but I wanted to talk about the size and the grandeur of Indianapolis Motor Speedway. It is said that you could fit inside the infield, Yankee Stadium, the Rose Bowl,
I'm checking your facts.
Churchill Downs, and Vatican City, all inside of there.
That's so amazing.
That amazes me. Yes, Brian, I will be trying to get a selfie with Alonso if that popped up.
I mean, Brian knows a lot. But for those that watch this later, tell us about Fernando Alonso. This is like a huge year. Well, tell them what we've been to the Indy 500, but what have we also done in Monaco?
Oh yeah, well, and it kind of keeps coming back to being racing fans. I think you do grow up a fan of the sport that you love, but then Brooke has watched me have a really hard time being a fan because I'm very much a doer and not a watcher. So there are times that watching people doing what your passion is hard to do, but I do also view it as a form of study, which I know probably annoys you sometimes because there's lots of nights laying in bed that I'm falling asleep with cars going around.
I actually find it relaxing. Puts me to sleep. I like it.
But that was part of the draw to go back this year. I think it's a historical moment. It's been a long time since a driver has kind of crossed over like what Alonso is doing this year.
Mm-hmm.
Fernando Alonso is a multi-time world champion in Formula One. He's actually skipping the Monaco Grand Prix to come to Indianapolis. Part of the proving ground for to be considered one of the world's best drivers is to kind of win.
One of the greatest living racing drivers.
That's a great title.
Yeah, there's an article right here.
I think it's being said that he wants to go after that driver's triple crown. Something like what Mario Andretti has done, and to win Indy 500, to win at Le Mans, and to win at Monaco in Formula One. So he is coming over, and there's been lots of critics. There's been lots of people that are pretty excited about it. There's people saying, can he get up to speed? It's such a different kind of racing. He's never sat in an Indy car until the month of May. He's never driven on an oval, yet he's sitting in the top 5 at the end of Fast Friday, and I think he was maybe in the top 3.
I think he was
yesterday.
4th after practice today.
Yeah, I mean he's up in the 231 mile an hour range, which certainly puts a person in the hunt. And you don't get a title like one of the greatest living race car drivers of all time without having some pretty strong credentials. So that kind of hooked us into wanting to be there.
Well, and he's not doing the Monaco Grand Prix this weekend to do this, so he's foregoing another iconic race, beautiful race in his own racing league for this.
Exactly. Formula One's pretty finicky world, and if your car is not one of the best cars that year, you almost don't even have a mathematical chance to win a race. And for somebody like Fernando, that's really, really challenging and frustrating, but he's got a really strong partnership with McLaren. McLaren's historically been a part of Indy racing, and I think they saw an opportunity to help out their key driver and say, hey, this is another opportunity, and we'll wrap our arms around it, help make it happen. I think that's super cool.
Yeah, it's exciting for him, it's exciting for us, and it's exciting for the Indy Racing League,
for sure. Exactly.
To have this kind of change up.
I will say, though,
I think
I always feel a tie, almost, even though we don't drive in the same series. I very much consider Ryan Hunter-Reay a teammate with our cause with Racing for Cancer, which of course Ryan started after he lost his mother, to cancer, and I've been honored to be a part of it. It's been a really good feeling to raise cancer awareness and whatnot. And some of the funds and people that we've been touched by, and through that. So I always wish Ryan Hunter-Reay the best luck, and I'll be cheering for him.
Cheering for you.
He was second fastest today. All those Andretti cars are kind of up there, which is fun to see.
And we'll be down in there, right? So probably get to see some of the inner workings of.
Yeah, and there's some Racing for Cancer events going on throughout the weekend that we may be able to slip into. We got some commitments with other stuff, and with that, and it's just going to be a busy weekend. But you're used to those.
I like busy. I'm actually a doer too, so that's why we get along well. I am very excited maybe to see Mario again. We went in 2010, and on our way back from something, Derek and I were exploring the town in Indianapolis, and on our walk back towards our hotel, who did we find just on the street? It was there wasn't a lot of people at a little table with an umbrella. It was Mario Andretti sitting there quietly having a glass of Andretti wine, none other than Andretti wine by himself.
Ask you if you remembered what he was drinking.
Yeah, and
hard to forget.
I think Derek's always been maybe a tiny bit more shy than me about like approaching people, which is weird. The only other time he was less shy than me was in Italy, which is even more weird. Maybe you have some Italian blood in you. Yeah, you have that. Race car driver knows. So anyway, we see Mario, and I said, would you mind, doing a photograph with Derek? And we had some nice exchange, some nice words with him, and he talked to us for a few minutes, and he was very gracious to interrupt his quiet moment. Maybe one of the only quiet moments he gets when he has his whole team there all the time. It's such a busy weekend.
Yeah, it was hard to interrupt that, but how often do you run into Mario Andretti at a sidewalk cafe having a glass of wine. It was a
Yeah.
necessary interruption.
It's pretty awesome. Sort of a brush with greatness. So in the description box, I've also quoted Mario Andretti for our quote of the day. And that quote is, if you are not going, let's see, if you are, hold on, everybody. I don't know if I can, you've probably already seen it if you've skimmed through here. If everything seems under control, you're just not going fast enough.
Yeah, that's pretty perfect.
Yeah. So I thought that was pretty awesome. What do you think about that? Because we have talked about this, and Kevin has, talked with you about it when you're racing, about that fine line of control versus pushing the edge.
Yeah, it's really easy to get in that comfort zone, and every time that I'm there, it does remind me that I must not be pushing hard enough and must not be going fast enough. Particularly in a qualifying lap.
On the edge of disaster.
You do. You just have to be. You kind of have to roll the dice and put it outside the edge of control, and hope that you dotted your I's and crossed your T's, and you've got enough talent to keep it in that box and enough luck on your side.
Yeah.
But it's like almost a conscious decision. You can tell. It's like, okay, now I really have to dig deep. I somehow have to get 102% out of this thing, because 99% isn't gonna cut it today.
I remember too, when James was driving in the Indy 500. How many years ago was that? James Davison. We were cheering on
last year, but the year
friend
before,
James.
And I think he had 2 years in a row that he got to participate.
Yeah.
And had a really strong race, actually.
Yeah, he did really, really well.
He's a very talented driver, and I've enjoyed co-driving with James. And
he's one of those ones that pushes the edge on a consistent basis, and he has the confidence to do that. And sometimes it'll bite you,
Yeah, it just does. It's just the way the odds go.
But a lot of times it puts the odds in your favor too.
And he's one of those drivers that can go out and put it at 102% on the outlap. I mean, he can just go there like that and turn it on, and that's a gift and a talent in itself. There's some drivers need a few laps to build up to it, some don't, and he's one of those that just don't, and that's why he's paid to drive a race car sometimes. Team owner can get on the horn with him and say,
yeah,
need you to move that thing up to P1 right now, and it's pretty good odds that it could happen. So.
Yeah, and so we'll do a few more quick facts here in a minute, but I also want to talk about one of my favorite drivers. Of course, we're going to be cheering for Ryan Hunter-Reay. Tony Kanaan is one of my favorite drivers, and he's always been, because he has a very sort of cool, overcoming the odds kind of backstory. Do you remember his backstory at all?
Bits and pieces, probably not good enough to quote it, but I'm certain that you have a link in there that's got a...
Yeah, I have. Well, I have a link in there about his helmet. Did you read that article?
I did not.
On his helmet? Dang. Okay, we kind of ran out of time today, but let me just tell you the thing that I like about him the most, which is, it was a couple years ago. He found out about a girl who had a brain aneurysm. She was 15, and she was hospitalized and in a coma. And he went to the hospital to see her. He just is kind of this driver that I am under the impression, I don't know him personally, but as we've watched him over the years, I feel like I've connected to his spirit of goodness and giving and kindness. And so he went to the, I guess this is under the category of the most touching story I've heard at the Indy 500, and I always love the backstory. That's why I do the Fast Life, so that we can give you our backstory. So anyway, he went to the hospital, and he gave her this beautiful good luck medallion that his mother had given him, and I guess it represented, obviously, to keep him safe too. And he gave that to her. And then she went through the healing process, came through the challenge, and 2 years later, which was a year we were just watching it here, because we haven't been back since 2010.
Yeah, correct.
So, and we were watching it on TV, and they did this whole story about how she came to him right before the race and gave him back the medallion for good luck, and he won the race that year. And I can't hear that story without tearing up ever. I just think it's so amazing. And I think his backstory, if I remember correctly, was that he was it him and his father or Elio Castroneves? They have a relationship from back when they were younger.
Yeah,
And
again,
one or the other helped each other out. And I just love his spirit.
Yeah.
I just love Tony Kanaan. I just think he
didn't come from a family
amazing.
that it was just automatic that you got to do this if you wanted to do it, and there was a lot of hard work put in and friendships and camaraderie that made it happen. And I love those stories. And
I do too.
And it's drivers like that have been a really good example, for drivers like me or aspiring drivers kind of coming up through the ranks. And you look and see what good they're doing with the platform that they're on, and I think that's a lot of
exactly like what Ryan Hunter-Reay is doing
tried
too.
to emulate, and partnering with Ryan, and taking on and learning about people like Kate and our Kate Strong project, and Mason and Mason's Hope. Being able to be an inspiring figure for kids like that or people like that is huge. And we had a similar thing. Mason. We found out about Mason just before the Road America race.
And Mason had an inoperable brain tumor. He's from the Seattle area, and we were put in touch with him through Gail Bensler, who worked as our publicist for quite a while and now works with the Racers Group team. She's an amazing, great-hearted person, too. And she put us in touch with Mason's family because of the need. It was an inoperable growing brain tumor, and they weren't sure how they could treat this safely, and it was affecting things. And then they recently were able to, Derek raced for him in multiple races and supported him. And one of our episodes on Fastlifetv is Mason's letter to Derek, thanking him and, talking to him about getting to meet him. And we still haven't met him in person, so we're going to do an episode about that going forward. But the result has been so beautiful for us because we communicated with him every time a race was coming, and Derek, got on the phone with him and Facebook and supported his cause. And you can find him at Mason's Hope on Facebook. And then he got the proton therapy, and we really weren't sure how this was all going to go. And things went really quiet for a while because they were obviously, he was in the hospital for a long period of time, and they were working on this treatment that could really work or it might not work. And lo and behold, he's back at school, and the tumor continues to shrink as a result of the treatment and therapy. And we haven't been in touch with him as much because we haven't been out to the racetrack, but we would like to get back in touch with him and do some kind of meetup.
I'm excited
for
that.
Fastlifetv. Perhaps we could have him on a Fast Talk Live. How cool would that be? He can interview you. He's got so much energy.
He'll rock it. He's a character.
And he's so sweet.
A comedian.
Yeah, so I love to hear those stories. Another story that's coming out of this Indy 500 is Jeff Teague. He's an Indiana Pacer basketball player. He's building some big, huge 33,000 square foot, I don't know if it's racing and basketball, gym facility, training facility, real close to the speedway. And so he's sponsoring Buddy Lazier's car this year. And Buddy Lazier's older. He's older than you are, right? He's 44.
He's done this a few times. But I love the fact that you brought that up, because it's other athletes that are finding a way to be involved. It ties right back to the Gordon Cooper astronaut story. It's like it's just an engaging event. People from all walks of life want to be a part of it, and I love seeing other successful athletes and sports support racing. So I think that's super cool.
I agree. I just realized I didn't move any of my stuff off my desk. Like, I'm supposed to clear this area to make it look really nice and pretty, like a movie set.
Oh, it's real life, though. They're saying.
And I have, like, my sweater here. I've got my... Oh, hey, look, Synergy. You want to sponsor us? Here we are. I love it.
I've nonchalantly been drinking my LaCroix.
Okay.
But we're kind of carrying on. We said we were going to keep this a little bit shorter. We're creeping up on 30 minutes. Did you have any other...
Well, let's just... a lot of people that are racing fans know this, but... Why is it called the Brickyard?
Because it was originally made out of bricks, 3.2 million bricks, And
1909 surfacing project when 3.2 million street paving bricks were laid on the current asphalt track. 1 yard of the historic brickwork is exposed at the start-finish line, and we have kissed those bricks.
Oh yeah, you'll have to maybe.
That's something that you do, right?
Yeah. Well,
yeah, I gotta find it. I looked for it, but I can't. I didn't find it, but I'm sure it's in my archive somewhere. It's been a busy week. So, what else? Elio, we like Elio Castroneves just because he has amazing energy, right?
Yeah, he won one of the years that we were there. We saw him do his.
And climbed up the fence.
Yeah.
It was crazy. Yeah. Yeah, high friction surface. You're right about that. But just that one little section now, right?
Yeah, now, but can you imagine the old track?
Yeah, that's what I was
bumping around
thinking.
a bunch of bricks.
You know, when we went to the motorsports gym in Alabama, by the way, if you guys are racing fans and you haven't been to that, at Barber Motorsports Park, that place is crazy. And they used to build wood slatted tracks for motorcycles that couldn't turn off, and they would go race them.
Yeah, they didn't have
so
brakes.
people died every race.
Board track racing.
No, but they also couldn't turn them off, right? Or they could turn them off and on, but no brakes.
Yeah,
that's what it was.
Yeah.
And they were racing on boards. I'm like, that just sounds insane. Yeah. So much insanity in this sport too, to some degree. Anyway,
those race car drivers are just filled with good ideas.
Okay, and you know, if you're a racing fan, if you watch the Indy 500, you know this. But the history of the milk, because that always grosses me out. I have to say, if I ever won, I'd probably gag. I mean, maybe I wouldn't be thinking about that.
It would be.
It makes me gag
the best
watching
drink of
it.
milk that you've ever had.
It's always 90 degrees and humid. I mean, it's supposed to be cooler this year, so this will be a different experience for us. But the 2 years we were there, it was just piping hot.
Yeah.
And they're just guzzling milk, and it's spilling all over their suit.
Sorry, dairy farmers of America.
Yeah, I don't even want to know how that smells after an hour. And then one more thing, because I'm a woman, I have to bring this up. How many women have started the Indy 500? Do you know that fact?
Is it 7?
This article was written in 2011, and it says 7, but I think there's more now because, right?
Yeah, probably since then there's been a few additional.
So, and we've cheered for Danica Patrick there, but now she's over NASCAR. And so who are the women in the field this year? Do you know?
Pippa Mann, I think is...
Pippa?
I think it's the only one, right?
I don't know. I was hoping you would know.
I didn't do that bit of research before we came.
Yeah.
We'll know this weekend, though. Qualifying is tomorrow and the next day.
Yeah, so we'll be watching that.
No,
and then we go on Thursday, and then Friday we go to the Indy Lights race, right?
Yep. We'll have to make an announcement of when we're going to be able to go live.
And then we'll probably just go live
Facebook.
I would say, next week. You can catch us on Facebook. And then we'll just be taking a ton of footage, and then we'll have 2 or 3 episodes, hopefully 2 or 3 episodes about who we meet, what we get to see, what we learn, and that'll be really fun. Don't you think?
Hopefully a little bit of racing business happens while we're there.
Yes.
And we make some contacts,
mm-hmm.
and we'll be able to announce when and where I'm going to be able to be back on track and driving what and all that fun stuff. So.
Yeah, exactly. We're looking forward to those announcements. We do have September and October taken care
Yes.
of, but we would like to see some things happen before then if possible.
Yes.
And or, set up for next season for you.
Exactly.
So we're working on it. So
Cool.
You all have a wonderful weekend. Hopefully you learned something new. And if you didn't learn anything new, I'm sorry.
Send us some questions.
Maybe you were entertained just watching us fumble through this one, having very little time to prepare, but we're super excited to go to Indy 500. We're thankful that you've come visit with us live, and we hope that you caught the Loren Ross episode where Derek interviewed U.S. ski team great Loren Ross, who is recovering from an injury right now, and they talked a lot about visualization and mindset and competition and how to make decisions at fast speeds. And if you can, write some comments on there. I know she's kind of watching that, hopefully, as it goes, and just give her some messages of encouragement. Friend her on social media. Let her know that you're behind her, because we really want to see her come back strong, and then we can cheer for her too.
Exactly.
Okay.
With that,
Thank you.
Over
Enjoy
and out.
your weekend. Bye.